Other things I experienced was I was on post one day and I noticed all these MREs, but they were slightly different. They were bigger and they were yellow. I didn't know what these were, and we hadn't been receiving food at the rate that we were consuming it, so we were at a ration level, and these MREs were just sitting in the open. So I go over there and I grab one and I give a few to my buddies, and I start to wonder about what these are. And as I'm eating it, I start reading, and these are humanitarian MREs that the Marines were keeping to feed themselves instead of giving to the Iraqi people that they were supposed to be sent to. We didn't have a clearly defined mission except keep pushing forward. And when you don't have a clearly defined mission, that mission just becomes to come home alive, to survive. And Marines will have nothing more than to do one thing, and that's to one-up each other by using their training. And when you become stagnant and the mission becomes survival, Marines are going to use their training on Marines around them or on the civilian population. I saw this happen countless times, that our training for protesters, violent situations were used on unsuspecting civilians because there were no rules. And this was perpetrated by squad leaders and platoon sergeants. And if anyone's going to charge you with anything, it's going to be them. And if they're doing it, then you know you can get away with it. And it happens. It happened all the time. During my second combat deployment, I was deployed to the United States Embassy in Kabul, Afghanistan from 2004 to 2005. This is not a normal role to guard an embassy as an infantry unit. This is usually carried out by Marine security guards, also known as MSG. At this point, I had been in the Marine Corps for a couple years, and it had become apparent that minorities in our unit, for whatever reasons they be, were not being promoted at the same rate as non-minorities. And the ones that did get promoted were exceptional. They would have been promoted no matter where they were because they went through meritorious boards. They were some of the brightest and best Marines I've ever worked with. However, while in Afghanistan, this was the point where we were told we were going to become leaders, that we were going to step up and start taking the leadership positions. Well, one of the first things we did as leaders is we had to go to a range, and to get to this range, we would drive in white vans. The area was not very unstable. These vans were not very secure vans. They were thin aluminum walls, and it was not meant to protect us. But the point of the matter is that we would be unsupervised because we were the leadership. We were supposed to be the supervision. Well, this was more viewed as a time to have some fun with our unsupervision and do what boys do. So people who didn't even have licenses back in the States or know how to drive stick were now driving these vans through the crowded downtown streets of Kabul, Afghanistan, at extremely high speeds, at the fastest the vehicles would go, driving in oncoming traffic, driving between the two lanes, pushing vehicles out of the way. And on one occasion, a man was killed for coming through an intersection at speeding vehicles. He was hit by the vehicle. He was not shot. Our vehicle hit this man, and we kept driving. I do not know if his family received any reparations or any repayment from the U.S. government. At another time, one of the drivers without a license, while going through one of the main circles in the city, hit a man and his donkey on a cart. And, we talk about it here. You take away something as simple as one vehicle or your donkey, that's an entire family's livelihood. And that family could have been ruined by this small one incident. Finally, I'd like to talk about my third deployment, and that's to Iraq. Again, in 2005 to 2006, we were stationed in downtown Fallujah at the mayor's compound. Talking again about devaluation of Marines around you, we were told we would be receiving one SAPI plate. And that was because the Marine Corps couldn't afford back SAPIs. So it was my job to issue out these SAPIs, and every day people would ask me, where are the back SAPIs? And I would have to look them in the face and say that, well, the Marine Corps says we don't have enough money for back SAPI plates right now. Another incident I saw in just the devaluation of life of other Marines was one Marine didn't have a gas mask the entire deployment. The rest of the company did, but this one Marine did not. And he repeatedly requested for a gas mask, and his requests were just ignored and pushed off to the side because the command did not like him. Now, I'm not saying there were chemical threats. I didn't experience any myself, but when the other 100+ Marines are walking around 24/7 going to the bathroom with their gas mask, you kind of want one yourself. Just another little devaluation was the importance of documents in the mayor's compound to the Iraqi people. We had a couple of Marines that were being punished, and one of their punishments was to remove all this paperwork from the top floor of the mayor's compound and bring it down into our dumpsters while in full gear. This took hours for them to do, and I think it might have spanned it across days, actually. Well, after all the paperwork was gone, I finally had a chance to sit down with my interpreter and just ask, what was all that paperwork? Well, come to find out, we destroyed all the birth certificates of the city of Fallujah. I'd also like to talk about an important story a lot of my fellow IVAW members around me shared, and that was the realization, a moment where you realized you were only affected by American casualties and not Iraqi casualties. And one of the roles I filled was basically a 911 service. I was on an ambulance that would rush to pick up wounded in the city, and we were told that there were Iraqi wounded, possibly they were the police or the Iraqi military training. Well, I was all excited because it's a very exciting time. I mean, you talk to anybody that works on an ambulance or is an EMT, your adrenaline gets going, and we're rushing out there, and our vehicle's slowing down, and we're pulling up, and there's a mass of people around a bloodied area and a blown up vehicle. And as we are slowly pulling forward to get into position, I see some desert boots, and then I see some digital desert camouflage, and I'm like, I didn't know that the Iraqi military had this. And then we pulled farther forward, and I realized that it was just another Marine that had been wounded. He wasn't part of our unit. He was just on a convoy going through the city. But this was the first time that I was affected in such a way that I was excited about what we were doing, and then a second later I was terrified, and it was only because that was an American wounded and not an Iraqi wounded. I'd like to sum up what all my statements have to do with, and that's an undefined mission and a lack of positive peer pressure. Negative peer pressure is rampant in the Marine Corps. It's probably rampant throughout all the military, but it's especially rampant in the infantry and in the Marine Corps. And when you have neither of those, the only mission that a Marine infantryman knows by heart is the mission of a Marine Corps rifle squad. Locate, close with, and destroy the enemy by fire and maneuver, to repel the enemy's assault by fire and close combat. And that's what you're going to do. You're going to use your training, and you're going to use that one mission that you know verbatim by heart with your eyes closed while you're asleep, and you dream about it. And you train every day. And you went through 3 months of boot camp and 3 months of infantry training, and you train between deployments and during deployments to carry out that mission. And when your mission's not defined, you're gonna use that one mission that you have defined, and you're gonna use those skills that you have to handle hostile people, not friendly people, not people that are looking for your help or looking for your hand. You're gonna use that training that you got. And it absolutely becomes that all you have is hammers, and everything you find is nails, and you're going to crush it. You're going to crush every nail that you find, and we're crushing the Iraqi people with the training we're giving and the unsupportive nature that's around us in the military. Thank you.